and welcome back to the Villa podcast. I'm my good friend Dan Wiseman. How are you doing, Dan?
Good to be back, mate.
It's good to be back, especially after a relatively positive result yesterday.
Absolutely.
The dust has settled a bit. I know I'm certainly not over Jack Grealish's goal. What about you, mate? Talk us through that, because that was absolutely phenomenal, wasn't it?
It seems he watches the pod, mate, because last week I called for him to improve his shooting. I said when he cuts in on that right foot, there needs to be a better end product. I wasn't quite expecting that, to be honest with you, mate.
I think the hair was either.
Yeah, I know you've left it a bit late, Jack, because unfortunately the Ballon d'Or at the time of recording is given out today. You'd like to think he'd done that a few months ago, so he would have been in consideration. But mate, I could not believe it. One of the all-time Villa Premier League goals for sure. I watched that fly into the top corner, and it's been a long time since, but I didn't even make a noise. My jaw just dropped. I couldn't believe what I'd seen. It was amazing.
It was crazy. I mean, where I was sat, it kind of looked as if it was going out for a goal kick. So when he hit it, I was like, oh, come on. And then you see the net rustle, and it was absolutely crazy. The limbs were insane. And the United fans that were next to us were just completely gobsmacked. They couldn't believe it. It's about time that Jack announced himself on a big stage like that, though, isn't it? Because how many times, as you said, we've called upon him to improve his shooting and stuff like that, and he's consistently doing it against the big teams. Because that United team was very poor yesterday. But the one thing that I find, I'm glad that Grealish is getting a lot of praise from pundits and stuff. But certainly looking at match of the day 2 last night, Jermaine Jenas and is it Martin Keough both saying that if he does it consistently, he'll get in the squad. Lads, he's been doing this. He's been doing this for like 24 months now. Come on, this is no joke.
No,
like
he. No, you're absolutely right, mate. And we kind of spoke about it at the last pod, whereby we finally start to feel that he's getting that wider recognition, and that goal you hope is the icing on the cake, and you kind of the last doubters are removed. He's more goals and assists, more goal involvements than any other English midfielder in the Premier League so far this season. 3 goals, 4 assists. He's been fouled 53 times this season, mate. 11 times yesterday.
And he missed out on 2 weeks.
I know. It's frightening me. Just this is such an underrated aspect of Jack's game, is that 3 United players were booked yesterday because of fouls on Jack Grealish, which is so valuable in a game like that, to have kind of so many players walking on tight ropes. He has such a widespread effect on a game. He's absolutely invaluable. I saw Ollie's comments were quite interesting in the post-match press conference. I don't know if you saw them. He refused to rule out a transfer for Jack. Basically, was what he was saying. Was that he was saying he's the kind of calibre of player that they'd like at United. That he doesn't like to speak to too keenly on opposition players. First of all, get out of here. Second of all, he does have a point. He's of that level. He's bordering kind of world-class levels now for me, mate. That goal yesterday just cemented it. He's absolutely immense.
I mean, let's be real. Surely Solskjaer's not going to be in the job by the time Grealish is available at the chance.
No way.
He's going to be out of the job. But I mean, his performance yesterday was fantastic, and I do want to note on a man who we did touch on in the preview as well, Almar El Ghazi, with the assist. Really disappointed that he came off. Yeah, looks like he kind of overextended himself when he put the cross in, and obviously had to come off. But I feel like if he played the full 90, he'd have had that Williams on toast for the whole game. I mean, Trez had his moments, but shout out to El Ghazi, now 7 goal contributions so far in the league, and I believe last season he got 8, and with 13 games in the Premier League, the best league in the world. There is levels to Almar El Ghazi, and I'm so good he's injured, mate. But it wasn't all plain sailing, as we well know. The frustrating thing is, when we've played against the big dogs this season, we've made a really good account for ourselves, and we've not really let them have a sniff. Maybe Tottenham, but that fitness in first game, you can say. But we really did gift United 2 goals yesterday on a plate, and I mean, it's frustrating because we perform so well, and we are the architects of our own downfall at sometimes. And I feel I should be a lot happier than I am. I was over the moon. Don't get me wrong, but it's just frustrating because United really were there for the taking.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those where if someone had offered you that result before the game, you probably would have taken it. But just such was the manner of our performance, and very much the manner of Manchester United, that you do feel slightly underwhelmed. The Rashford goal is particularly disappointing because yet again it's a set piece, which we seem to struggle with, and I think what that illustrates is perhaps the kind of the fact that Konsa and Mings perhaps haven't played too much football together this season. You watch that, they're quite separated from each other. Rashford kind of breezes in there pretty easily. What's perhaps even more disappointing is that he actually missed the header. It wasn't going in, but for Tom Heaton's arse, which is a real shame, because Tom's actually one of the players I wanted to touch on in that. Such an underrated performer for us, I think. Week in, week out, he's so reliable. There are so many instances where he'll kind of come and claim a cross, or he'll take a shot cleanly, and you kind of forget to appreciate the fact that we've had so many goalkeepers in recent years that struggle to kind of do those basics so reliably. And Tom, you never feel like there's a mistake in there. Everything that he does, you have so much confidence in, and I think when you're going to places like Old Trafford, it's so valuable to have a goalkeeper like him.
Definitely, but I mean, the first goal was totally unavoidable if it's not for Mings trying to win a throw-in, trying to clear his line. He practically had the ball from the 6-yard box, and went all the way. And it's just frustrating. I mean, we've said this is kind of an anti-Mings podcast. It's becoming that, because we love you, Tyrone, but there's just, I feel like he's too lax at times, and we've been talking about, does Engels come back in for Konsa? This is going to be potentially an Engels and Konsa defence, isn't it? I mean, if Ty keeps this up, I know he scored, and by the way, fantastic volley, fantastic. Did well to stay on side as well, but I mean, he's just too casual. Yeah,
the one thing that I kind of watched his performance yesterday, and I was thinking about this podcast, and I was saying that I kind of want to make amends for perhaps what I've said, is that he's not dropping consistent clangers. He's actually putting in relatively good performances. It's just there are one or two key mistakes in a game that cost us slightly. And yesterday was exactly the same. I thought it was actually a pretty good performance from Mings. Again, I thought he grew into the game, obviously scored the goal, but it's just that costly mistake, and it's avoidable. And it's one of the things which I have, those kind of, Tyrone does that a lot, where he'll kind of roll the ball out from under his foot, point, exactly where the long balls come in. He'll kind of roll the ball out again, and you're like, okay, Tyrone, let's have that ball now. Let's have that. And he'd do it 2 or 3 times. And yesterday, I think it was Rashford, maybe, I can't remember who it was, that it came off and that they won a corner. But it's too choreographed. It's too slow. And look, I like how composed he is on the ball. He demonstrated it at points yesterday, especially with the pace of Martial and Rashford, that he was able to kind of run the ball off them and match them for pace. And he has that technical ability which enables him to do that. There's a time and a place, and I think it's just kind of learning when to use that, because so much of his game is based on him being the kind of the archetype, kind of cool, calm, composed ball playing centre half that you get in the modern day. But there's still a time and a place for just clearing your lines and doing the basics, and he failed that yesterday.
I think, talking on that sort of modern day centre back, that is exactly what Ezri Konsa's become in this side. He, for me, is reminding me a lot of how Axel Tuanzebe would step out from the back, because it draws players in. If you're creating an overload, and as long as you can retain possession and make an angle for a pass, it works every time. And because Tyrone doesn't always step out, and when he does, it's more of a rush. And we're out of possession, and he's trying to nullify the threat before it sort of makes its way into our half. Whereas with Ezri, he's kind of stepping out with the ball, offering options, drawing players towards him, and for him to go to Old Trafford and put in a performance like that, I thought he was fantastic. And another person who deserves a lot of praise, I can see on your notes, Wesley. How good was Wesley yesterday, mate?
Wes was brilliant, mate. I was so impressed with his hold at play, his energy, his pressing was probably the best we've seen from him in Villa shirt. I thought he was absolutely everywhere. He showed so much intent to get after the ball. There was nice little back heels coming out, which I didn't think he had in his locker. There was a few slack passes. There was a few times where he did the hard part. He kind of got in between the lines, with back to the goal. And would try and bring other players into play, and the pass wasn't quite there on a couple of occasions. But we're very pro Wes on this podcast, as you know. But he's just nowhere near a goal at the moment. he's doing all the right things in terms of his hold-up play, but he just isn't quite getting in those positions. And look, it's not a concern at the moment because we have goals coming from so many other parts of the team.
Yeah.
I'm really not worried about where the goal threat is coming from at this moment in time. But Wes, he's doing all the right things. He had a brilliant game yesterday, but he's just not quite getting himself in those positions to get on the end of the moves which he is creating. Which is slightly frustrating, but hey, I'm not going to... I saw Sky Sports gave him a 5.
Come on. As
a match rating yesterday, which I thought was very harsh. As I said, I know he didn't do too much in front of goal, which is obviously kind of what you look for in a striker, obviously. But his all-round game was really good, I thought.
Definitely. I can't believe that. I never saw that. A 5. That is absolutely
harsh,
criminal.
Isn't it? Yeah.
I think we touched on before the game. This would be the kind of game for Wesley if Axel didn't start, which thankfully he didn't. And all of Ollie's talk about Axel giving the press conference or the post-match, hype didn't work clearly because I don't think they were expecting that, were they? But now, Dan, we'll actually go to Jamie, who was at the game yesterday. Nice to see you, Jamie, and we'll get his thoughts on the game and discuss that.
Well, probably a good point in the end for Villa. I think, looking at the week that we were going to have against Chelsea and Leicester and Man United, I think picking up any points from these games was going to be positive. Having taken the lead and played pretty well and controlled things largely in the first half, I think we can be disappointed perhaps not to have pushed on and maybe won the game, especially the sloppy error to sort of give Man U the way back into the game with the equaliser. But then, having said that, they worked hard. They defended. They showed character to come back. Having gone behind, we came back and got the equaliser. We haven't done that against the so-called big teams points this season. So that was a real positive. I think Wesley had a terrific game today. I think he worked really, really hard. Probably the best all-round performance from him that we've seen. Heaton, again, some very, very good saves. Goes to show exactly why we brought him in. Grealish was Grealish, capable of real magic. The goal was absolutely wonderful, and just exactly what he wants to be showcasing on a big stage. Ultimately, probably over the course of the game, over 90 minutes, a draw is probably a fair result. Man U probably had the better chances in the second half. I think we controlled largely the first half. But generally, a really positive point. To come away from Old Trafford, considering our record there for the past 30 years, was really shows the change. And the fact that we went there to attack and try and take it to a team, that's our mentality this season. So I think we have to be positive. It's been tricky, but I'd take that point, and hopefully, we can build on it and go to Chelsea and Leicester and continue to show that we can attack teams.
There we go. So we've got thoughts from Jamie. Again, nice to see you yesterday, Jamie. I think you kind of touched on it there a bit in terms of trying to remain positive. I think he's been fairly objective there because it's not until I watched the game back I thought, you know what, a draw probably was fair. What are your thoughts on that, Dan?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I thought the draw probably was the fair result. I thought for all of our good performances, if you make mistakes like kind of the ones that we've discussed from Mings at Old Trafford, regardless, I know this United team isn't the one that perhaps we've seen in years gone by, but if you make those kind of mistakes and you allow them to get into the game like that, they still will punish you. You say what you want about United's team, but you can't fault the ability of that front three. There is goals there, there's evident talent. And so if you give them those opportunities, you will score. It's quite good actually, because if we look at the run of 4 games that we had kind of from Newcastle to Leicester, I looked at those and I was like, if we take 4 points from that, I'll be happy.
We're there.
Yeah, and we're there already. Yeah. So if regardless of what goes and happens now against Chelsea and Leicester, 2 games which we are going to be second best in, you would imagine. I'm happy with how we've performed in this stretch.
Definitely, and I was saying yesterday, I phoned my dad after the game, I genuinely feel like we're probably 2 or 3 games away from just absolutely steamrolling teams. Hopefully, I mean, this is going to come back to bite me, we'll be losing all of our games in December, but every week we're improving and we're getting better. And if I'm being honest, I think United probably looked at this game and thought, nearly promoted Aston Villa, even though they shouldn't have, because they did the exact same thing at Sheffield United and absolutely bottled it. I mean, they've dropped 4 points against newly promoted sides within a week. That's shocking.
Yeah.
But you know, I think it shows how far we've come, because you know the last time, you know, about around this time last season, you know, we were coming up to Wigan away.
Yeah.
Losing 3-0, you know, one of our northern away days weren't particularly that good. So for us to be able to come up to, you know, let's not forget Manchester United.
Yeah.
They are still the biggest football club in the world, obviously second to Villa, and get a point is great. And you know, I think we probably should be a bit more positive and objective, like Jamie was, especially, you know, going away to Chelsea, a few injuries going their way. Obviously, our man Tammy's out, Agent Tammy. Yeah, what a guy, you know.
I'm gutted that I would love to have seen Tammy play. Just I think it would be really nice. He probably would have scored, so perhaps it's a blessing in disguise. Actually, Giroud kind of obviously they didn't get a good result against West Ham at the weekend, so potentially it's a good time to play Chelsea. Giroud was really poor. Though they didn't start Kante, he came on as a substitute, and that kind of came on to bite him from on the behind. So you imagine that Kante will start. Sorry.
Twice now.
You imagine that Kante will start, and you hope that, you know, we can still go out, and the midfield will be a key area that, and even with Kante in there, you imagine that we can kind of still kind of create some dominance in there, and that actually kind of lends me to something I wanted to put to you, mate. Again, another quiet game from John McGinn. I thought yesterday, you know, he not a poor game by any stretch of the imagination, but usually he's such a standout figure. It's a few games now where we've kind of seen him slip into the shadow, but perhaps of Grealish. What do you think's going on there?
I think it's burnout from McGinn. I really do, because looking at him in the internationals, he's absolutely dominated it for Scotland, and you know, he's been getting himself goals and assists from here, there, and everywhere. I think the only way we can possibly get John to perform like that is to make him wear a Scotland shirt underneath. Because you know, he's been quite. There was a few times yesterday where, come sort of 70-80 minutes, he did his typical sort of rat run, and he got the ball and he was pinging it. But no, he was quiet against Newcastle, I felt, and he's been quiet against United. Whether that was tactical, so as we don't get a transfer approach in January, I don't know. I reckon Perslove may have texted him and said, "You know what, mate, just keep it quiet for this one." But it's a worry, but especially when you're looking at how well Douglas Luiz is performing. You know, shout out to Douglas, and especially looking at the type of game for Chelsea, we're going to need our own Kante. Marvellous hasn't played the past two games. I feel like away from home, in a game where we're probably going to have a lot less of the ball, it's going to be vital for him sort of winning the ball back, setting traps, as Dean said yesterday. He thought we did very well, you know, and he's key for that. I don't really know. I mean, obviously United, Douglas kept him out. That's fair. I don't know why he weren't perhaps in for Newcastle. I would have, maybe because we expected to have more of the ball, so it was more of a Luiz game, then an Nakamba game. But I mean, we've kind of said before, I think, like Johnson, he's kind of a bit untouchable, isn't he? Whether that's right or wrong, Dean will have a few decisions to make, especially with how well Connor's been playing. I think Connor has to start, and again, amazing performance by Conor Hourihane at the weekend, and as we said, that him targeting Grealish, it's vital for how we want to play and how we're kind of making these disruptions. I think, you know, Chelsea tend to play with the two in midfield, and then sort of Mount floating, which is typically Jorginho and Kovacic. So you'll want someone like John to be on top of their game and really get on top of them, because they like to have a lot of the ball and sort of take their time. You know, Jorginho, a very underrated player, I think. He's got a fantastic range of passing. You know, we're finally seeing this under Lampard. I think he was kind of scapegoated a lot by Sarri, but you know, if you look at the passing statistics from that season, he was up there with one of the best. So you know, we've got to get on top of them. So maybe this is a game where Douglas has to sit on the sidelines. But you know, I'm hoping McGinn. You know, we see the McGinn of old, because he's kind of faded, and I've had quite a few of my of my mates who aren't Villa fans asking what's up because he's in the fantasy team.
Yeah, yeah, mate. It's a strange one. It's a strange one. It's going to be hard for him. You know, he's got the ability, but that midfield of Chelsea's is arguably one of the best in the league this season. You know, Kovacic, I think, has had a particularly underrated campaign. I think he's really stepped up to the plate. He's been magnificent. We're seeing Kante take up new positions. I think, you know, there still is a kind of perception that he's a 6. But if you watch Chelsea, Jorginho is the deepest player in that midfield 3, and Kante is kind of an 8 now. So, you know, he's starting to get himself in and around the box and get goals. So, you know, it's going to be so vital that players like John do stand up and be counted in that one. But you know, whilst a lot of threat comes from the midfield, Chelsea are very good on the wings, particularly on the left. Pulisic has been very good the last few games, and it's not the right winger Willian or Pedro that you have to be concerned about on that flank. It's the right back Reece James that poses the threat, and it's on the wings where we're going to see a lot of changes because Trez, you know, Anwar didn't look too promising. I'll be surprised if we see him on Wednesday, and Gilbert, with that yellow card, has got himself suspended.
Giving me an anxiety attack every time.
So we're going to have that Egyptian link-up, it seems, on that right wing, mate. It's not something... Have we seen this season in full?
Not for a full 90.
No, I don't think
certainly
so.
Not starting.
So, you know, it's a bit of a baptism of fire for those two, but you know that kind of international chemistry can't be understated in how important that will be. You know, for two players playing their first game on that flank at Stamford Bridge, it's nice to know that, you know, they have some knowledge of how each other's games. So that'll be potentially a weak link maybe for Villa, that right hand side. But what kind of gives me confidence is I actually kind of think we're a better counter-attacking side than we are when we're the side in possession. I think we're a much better away side. You know, that's kind of shown at the moment. I think when we have the ball at Grealish's feet and he has to make those kind of snap decisions, and we're playing, you know, on a counter-attack, on fast break, you feel we're so much more threatening than when we have to be the dominant side and break teams down. I don't know what you think about that.
Definitely, I think, as you said, when we're at home, I feel like there is this sort of emphasis, as we see week in, week out, give the ball to Jack, but because we have possession, he has too much time to think about what he's doing. And as you say, when you're away from home, you know, Mings heads the ball out from the corner, it falls to Jack's feet. He's got to run and he's got to make that decision. You know, when there is like a Reece James standing there on the counter attack, he's got to decide whether he lays the ball off or he's going to try and take the game to him. And you know, that's where we see Jack at his best, because I think if Anwar puts in that ball at Villa Park that he did yesterday, Jack kind of takes a touch. He waits for target to overlap, whereas he just simply had to come inside and score that goal yesterday. So the sort of them snap decisions will, for me, be the difference between us, because we're always an overhit pass or an underhit pass away from a really nice movement. So I feel like when you're rushed, they're almost forced to make it count. I think as well, I want to talk about Wesley again. Fikayo Tomori is a centre-back that clearly has a lot of promise. An interesting partnership with Rudiger as well, because he was one sort of at Roma who was dubbed to be a very good player. So 2014 World Cup was very good, but kind of thrown out in the cold a bit at Chelsea when he came. So I think that partnership, that there's something to be had there, because Tomori, for all of his promise, doesn't have a lot of experience, and if this is the Fikayo Tomori who we came up against 3 times last season for Derby County, I really hope it is, because for me he didn't do a lot when we ended up playing against them. For me, Tomori is the weak link, but obviously you know, there's a plethora of talent at centre back for Chelsea, isn't there, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And you know, Wes is going to be so key to this game, because he's slower probably than both the centre backs. You know, you would say one thing. You know, whoever comes into that Chelsea rotation, be it Zuma or Rudiger or whoever plays, all are very quick. Probably faster than Wesley, and so it's going to be a really interesting battle, because both the centre backs and the strikers are very strong. They've got legs. So it's where Wes is really going to have to be on his A game if he's going to get an inch against those centre backs, because they can match him in pretty much every aspect of his game. But yesterday I thought he did that very well. I thought, not a particularly easy centre-back partnership to come up against. I would say an overrated one personally.
Yeah.
I like Victor Lindelof. Harry Maguire doesn't convince me. And so he'll have to have a good game against Chelsea, especially if we've got kind of Trezeguet on the wings, who probably isn't as creative as El Ghazi. And Jesus Christ, if you're watching, Trez, please get another foot. I can't have this. I was watching yesterday. I don't think you took a single touch with your left foot. And please do something about that. But yeah, no, Wesley's got to have a good game, but it's nice to know that he's starting to. He looks more confident. He looks more reassured in his ability, and if he can just start to finish off moves as well as he starts them, then we've got a great player in there for sure.
Definitely, and I think we should now probably come on to our score predictions.
Yep.
I nailed it on the last podcast.
You did actually. You did very well.
I don't think I think I said Wes and Grealish, so I was half right on that one. But
I went 2-1, so
2-1.
close.
I mean, I was hoping for a 2-1. But what are your thoughts on this one, Dan? This is going to be a lot tougher, I feel.
Yeah, it was a great week for Villa last week, mate. With the win on Monday, Dean's new deal. Congratulations, Dean. Absolutely. And then the draw on the weekend. This one, I don't think it's going to be as good, to be honest with you, mate. I think we're going to lose twice this week. I think we'll make a good account of ourselves. I think we could go and lose 2-1 at Stamford Bridge on Wednesday. We seem to show up against the big teams though, so we have got a strong performance in us, but I think we'll just fall short on this one. Yeah,
I think it's going to be tough, and out of funnily looking at Chelsea and then Leicester, I think Chelsea's the place we're going to get the points.
Yeah,
and we're away from home. So I don't want to ever rule us out of the game before a ball's been kicked, but Chelsea are a bit good, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, they are, and I think, to be honest, we'll actually see what Lampard's really made of. Kind of recovering from a loss of that manner to West Ham, because let's be honest, everyone should be beating West Ham at the moment, shouldn't they? But I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
Yep. I like it. I'm
going to go for a 1-1 draw. A win would be very, very important with how the table's looking, wouldn't it, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. The table is so tight, mate. I'm really glad we went and got a point at United, because it's actually looking pretty good for us. We're within 3 points of the top 10. United, who we went toe to toe with, are up in 9th, and we matched them in every aspect on the field yesterday. So it could be a tough week. Could be a kind of at least a fortnight maybe until we see some points, but you're right. I think Chelsea is the place where we get points. We're going to Leicester this weekend.
Definitely, mate. So with that being said, Dan, it's been great to have a podcast, and another podcast where we've been relatively positive. So thanks for that,
let's keep this going.
Let's keep it going. Hopefully Wesley will score, because I think that would just
absolutely
be absolutely crazy.
Just set this into overdrive, mate.
It just go crazy. So yeah, if you guys did enjoy this podcast, hit the like button and comment your thoughts below. Do you think we'll beat Chelsea or Leicester? Let us know, and also thank you for 1,600 subscribers.
Massive.
Hopefully, we can kick on from here.
Absolutely.
It's nice to see the growth on the channel. So yeah, thank you guys very much, and up the Villa.
Chester's essential to fulfilling this got potential. It's the main man, a hero. He's the main leader of the gang. Chester. Chester. He's the main leader of the gang now. Chester.